Welcome back, everyone. If this is your first time here, please subscribe and drop a comment telling us where you're from. We love hearing from you. Now, let's dive into today's story. The notification pinged on my phone at 2:47 a.m. I was in the nursery with my 3-month-old daughter Emma, who'd been fighting a cold all week. The nanny cam I'd installed just 3 days earlier had motion-detected activity in our bedroom down the hall. Odd. My husband Jake said he was sleeping at his office tonight, finishing a big presentation for his architectural firm. I opened the app, expecting to see our cat. Instead, I saw Jake. And my sister Rachel. In our bed. But they weren't doing what you might think. They were going through my medical records. "This one's perfect," Rachel's voice came through crystal clear on the recording. Postpartum depression screening from her 6-week checkup. She admitted to feeling overwhelmed. Jake's response made my blood freeze. "Add it to the folder. My lawyer says we need at least 15 documented incidents to prove she's unfit." The bottle of formula I'd been holding slipped from my hands, clattering against the hardwood floor. Emma startled awake, beginning to cry. I stood there, paralyzed, watching my husband and my own sister, plot to take my baby away from me. "The custody hearing is in 2 weeks, Jake continued on the recording. "Once we have full custody, Rachel, you can move in and help me raise Emma properly. No more of Melissa's neurotic parenting." Rachel laughed. Actually laughed. God, I've been waiting for this moment since she got pregnant. She never deserved to be a mother anyway. I replayed that clip 17 times before Emma's crying finally pulled me back to reality. My hands shook so badly I could barely pick her up. This couldn't be real. This had to be some kind of nightmare. But it wasn't. The timestamp showed the footage was from 2 hours ago, while I'd been in the nursery, oblivious. I'd installed that nanny cam because I was worried about Emma's breathing. She'd had a slight fever, and I wanted to monitor her while I caught a few hours of sleep. The camera company had given me 2 cameras in the package deal. I'd put one in the nursery and, almost as an afterthought, one in our bedroom. That afterthought just saved my life. My mother's voice message came through at 3:15 a.m. "Melissa, honey, I know it's late, but I've been thinking about you. Call me when you get a chance. I love you." My mother, Patricia, was a family law attorney. 40 years of practice, specializing in custody cases. She'd retired 6 months ago, just before Emma was born, saying she wanted to enjoy being a grandmother. I called her back immediately. "Melissa, what's wrong?" She knew instantly. Mothers always know. "Mom," my voice cracked. "I need you to come over. Now. And Mom, bring your lawyer brain. I think Jake is trying to take Emma away from me." She arrived in 32 minutes, wearing sweatpants and her reading glasses, her silver hair pulled back in a messy bun. I'd never been so grateful to see another human being in my entire life. I showed her the footage. Her expression didn't change as she watched, but her knuckles went white around her coffee cup. When it finished, she replayed it. Then again. Then she pulled out her tablet and started taking notes. "How long has this been going on?" Her voice was professionally calm, but I recognized the fury underneath. "I don't know. The camera's only been up for 3 days. Where's Jake now?" "He said he's at his office. Working late." Mom's laugh was bitter. "He's probably with Rachel, manufacturing more evidence." "Melissa, tell me everything. Every weird thing that's happened in the last few months. Every time Jake criticized your parenting. Every interaction with Rachel that felt off. If you're dealing with betrayal from people you trusted, hit that subscribe button. You're not alone." The memories came flooding back, pieces of a puzzle I'd been too sleep-deprived and trusting to assemble. 3 months of manipulation I'd completely missed. It started during my pregnancy. Jake had been so supportive at first, coming to every doctor's appointment, painting the nursery, reading parenting books. But around month 7, something shifted. He started questioning my decisions. Did I really need to breastfeed? Wasn't formula just as good? Why was I so insistent on a natural birth? Wasn't I being selfish by refusing an epidural? He documented everything, I realized aloud. Every time I said I wanted to try breastfeeding, every time I researched natural parenting methods. He was building a case that I was rigid and controlling. Mom nodded grimly. What else? Rachel. God, Rachel. My younger sister by 4 years, 28 to my 32. She'd moved to our city 6 months ago, claiming she needed a fresh start after a bad breakup. I'd been thrilled. We'd always been close, or so I thought. She'd been at the hospital when Emma was born. Held her before my own mother did. Visited 3 times a week, bringing meals, offering to babysit, acting like the perfect aunt. She was there for everything, I whispered. Every pediatrician appointment Jake couldn't make. Every time I was exhausted and needed help. She documented all of it, didn't she? Every moment I struggled, every time I cried, every single vulnerable second. Probably. Mom's jaw was set. What about witnesses? Other family? Friends? That's when it hit me. Over the past 3 months, I'd become increasingly isolated. Jake had suggested I take time off from my job as a marketing consultant to bond with Emma. Rachel had encouraged it, saying I shouldn't stress myself with work. They'd both insisted I needed rest, that having visitors would be too much, that I should focus on recovering. I'd thought they were being supportive. They were cutting me off from anyone who might contradict their narrative. The moms from my prenatal yoga class, I said suddenly. They've been texting, asking to meet up. Jake always said I was too tired. Rachel said I should wait until Emma was older. Mom was typing rapidly on her tablet. We're meeting them this week. Anyone else? Dr. Chen, my OB. She's been calling to check on me. Jake always answers and says I'm sleeping. We're calling her tomorrow. Mom looked at me seriously. Melissa, you need to understand what's happening here. Jake and Rachel have been planning this for months. Maybe longer. The custody hearing in 2 weeks. That's not random. That's calculated. They've been building their case while keeping you isolated and vulnerable. But why? My voice broke. Why would Jake do this? We've been married for 5 years. We planned this baby. He said he loved me. Mom's expression softened. Honey, I need to tell you something about Jake's family that you might not know. She pulled up information on her tablet. After you called, I did some preliminary research. Jake's father, Thomas Patterson, died 8 years ago. His mother, Susan, remarried 3 years later to a man named Richard Sterling. I know all this, Mom. Did you know that Richard Sterling has a trust fund worth approximately $40 million? And that his estate plan leaves everything to his wife's children and grandchildren? The room tilted. What? Emma isn't just Jake's daughter, Melissa. She's his ticket to a fortune. If Jake has sole custody, if you're deemed unfit, Emma's inheritance is controlled entirely by him as her guardian. But Rachel. Rachel has been having an affair with Jake for at least 18 months. Mom showed me her tablet screen, displaying social media posts, location data, credit card receipts. I have a colleague who specializes in digital forensics. I had her do a quick scan while driving over here. Your sister and your husband have been together since before you got pregnant. The baby monitor showed Emma sleeping peacefully in her crib, completely unaware that the adults in her life were destroying each other. Don't forget to like this video if you're on the edge of your seat. I spent the next 72 hours in a fugue state, going through the motions of caring for Emma while my mother built a war strategy in our dining room. Jake came home the morning after I'd discovered everything, acting completely normal. He kissed my forehead, asked about Emma's cold, made himself breakfast. I watched him move through our kitchen like a stranger. "Rough night?" he asked sympathetically. "You look exhausted." Emma was up a lot, I managed to say. "You should rest today. I can work from home, help with the baby." He smiled, that charming smile that had made me fall in love with him 7 years ago. "Rachel's coming over this afternoon. She can take Emma for a walk so you can nap." "That's okay. I'm fine." His expression flickered. Just for a second. Annoyance. "Melissa, you need to accept help. This is exactly what we've been worried about. You're burning yourself out." "We." He'd said we. Him and Rachel. Discussing their concerns about me. I said I'm fine, Jake. "See, this is what I mean." His voice took on a patronizing tone. "You're being defensive over nothing. This is concerning behavior, Mel." He was doing it right now. Gaslighting me. Documenting my responses. Probably recording this conversation on his phone. My mother emerged from the guest bedroom where she'd been sleeping. "Jake, I didn't know you were home." "Patricia, hi." Jake's smile was warm. "I didn't know you were staying over. Melissa needed help with Emma last night. The baby's been fussy. Mom's performance was flawless. Concerned grandmother, nothing more." After Jake left for work, Mom sat me down. "You can't confront him yet. We need more evidence of their plan. We need to know exactly what they're building their case on." "How?" She smiled grimly. "You installed one nanny cam. Let's install more." Over the next week, my mother and I transformed our home into a surveillance operation. Cameras in the living room, the kitchen, Emma's nursery, our bedroom. Audio recorders hidden in Jake's office. I felt sick doing it, violated in my own home, but Mom was insistent. "They're building a case using lies and manipulation," she said. "We're documenting the truth." The footage we captured was devastating. Day 3, Jake and Rachel in our kitchen, going through my phone while I was upstairs with Emma. "She's been texting her friend Sarah," Rachel said. "Look at this message. I feel like I'm drowning sometimes." "That's perfect." Sounds like she's admitting she can't handle motherhood. Day 5, Jake on the phone with his lawyer. She's already isolated from her support system. We made sure of that. Once the judge hears that she's been refusing help, refusing visitors, that'll seal it. And we have Rachel ready to testify that Melissa's been erratic and possibly a danger to the baby. Day 7, Rachel holding Emma, crooning to her. "Soon you'll be mine, sweet girl. Mommy's going to go away, and Auntie Rachel will take such good care of you. I've wanted this from the beginning. Your daddy promised me." I threw up after watching that one. Mom put her hand on my shoulder. "We have them, Melissa. We have everything we need." But there was more. My mother, with her 40 years of legal experience and extensive network, had been investigating deeper. The custody hearing, she told me on day 8. It's not scheduled through the normal channels. Jake filed for emergency custody, claiming you're a danger to Emma. He's using a judge named Marcus Whitmore, who happens to be Richard Sterling's golf partner. That's not legal. It's not ethical, but it's not technically illegal if they disclose the relationship. Which they didn't. Jake's lawyer, Gerald Mathis, has a history of these kinds of cases. Wealthy men wanting custody, painting mothers as unstable. He wins 70% of the time. My hands started shaking. "Mom, what if?" "Stop." Her voice was firm. "Listen to me. Gerald Mathis wins when mothers don't have representation, don't have evidence, don't have resources. You have all three. You have me." She opened a folder. "You also have something else. I've been contacting Jake's ex-girlfriends from before you were married. What? Why? Because men like Jake don't start this behavior with their wives. They practice first. She was right. Over the next 48 hours, 3 women came forward. Jake's college girlfriend, Amanda, who he'd tried to get fired from her job by spreading rumors she was mentally unstable. His ex-fiancée, Brittany, who'd filed a restraining order after Jake stalked her for 6 months following their breakup. Another ex named Morgan, who'd nearly lost custody of her child from a previous relationship after Jake anonymously called CPS claiming she was abusing the kid. He has a pattern, Mom explained. He targets successful, independent women, gets them pregnant or entangles them financially, then systematically destroys their credibility to gain control. Comment below if you've ever dealt with a manipulative partner. On day 10, Jake made his move. I came downstairs with Emma to find a woman in a suit standing in our living room with Jake and Rachel. Melissa Patterson, the woman asked. Yes. I'm Karen Morrison from Child Protective Services. We've received reports of concerning behavior regarding your infant daughter. I need to conduct a home inspection and interview you. My blood ran cold. This was it. This was their play. Jake looked appropriately concerned. Honey, I told them you've been struggling. We just want to make sure Emma's safe. Rachel stood beside him, her hand on his arm, playing the concerned sister, the supportive girlfriend, whatever role she needed. Of course, I said calmly. But I'd like my attorney present for any interviews. Karen Morrison's expression flickered. That's your right, but it may look like you have something to hide. My client has nothing to hide, my mother said, emerging from the guest room in a full suit, looking every inch the legal powerhouse she was. I'm Patricia Reynolds, family law attorney, representing Ms. Patterson. I assume you have documentation of these reports. Morrison shifted uncomfortably. I'm not required to disclose the source. No, but you are required to disclose the nature of the allegations, particularly for an unannounced home visit. Mom's smile was sharp. I'm familiar with CPS protocol, Ms. Morrison. I've worked with your agency for 4 decades. This visit seems irregular. I received multiple reports of neglect and potential mental health concerns. From whom? I can't. Let me guess, Mom interrupted. The reports came from Jake Patterson and Rachel Miller. Probably filed within the last week. Probably timed to occur right before an emergency custody hearing scheduled for next Tuesday. Morrison's face went pale. How did you? Because it's a classic abuser tactic, and my daughter is not the first woman I've seen targeted this way. Mom turned to Jake. You can leave now. And take Rachel with you. This is my house, Jake said, his mask slipping. His voice was cold. Angry. I'd never heard him sound like that. Actually, it's marital property, Mom corrected. And as of this moment, you are no longer welcome here. I'm filing a restraining order based on emotional abuse, manipulation, and conspiracy to commit fraud. You can't. I absolutely can. Ms. Morrison, I'm going to save you some time. My daughter will voluntarily participate in a psychiatric evaluation, a home safety inspection, and any other reasonable assessment you require. However, I'm also filing a formal complaint about this visit and requesting an investigation into how these reports were filed and processed. Something tells me we'll find some interesting irregularities. Morrison looked between Jake and my mother, clearly realizing she'd been manipulated into something far more complicated than she'd expected. I'll need to consult with my supervisor. Please do. In the meantime, Jake, Rachel, you need to leave. Now. Jake's expression was pure rage. All pretense of the concerned husband vanished. You can't keep Emma from me. She's my daughter. And Melissa is her mother, with full legal rights. You want custody? Go through the proper channels. Legally. Not through manipulation and fraud. After they left, Morrison conducted a thorough inspection. Our home was spotless. Emma was healthy, well-fed, clearly loved and cared for. My mother had made sure of that, helping me maintain routines even through the stress. Mrs. Patterson, Morrison said finally, "I'll be honest. Something about those reports felt off. Your home is fine. Your daughter is clearly well cared for. I'm going to recommend closing this case." "Before you do," Mom said, "I'd like to show you something." She pulled up the nanny cam footage on her tablet. All of it. Jake and Rachel going through my medical records. Discussing their plan. Rachel's chilling monologue about taking Emma. Jake's phone call with his lawyer about isolating me. Morrison watched in horror. "Oh my God. I need you to document that you've seen this," Mom said. "I need it on record that this CPS report was part of a systematic attempt to falsely paint my daughter as an unfit mother for financial gain." Morrison nodded slowly. "I'll file a report immediately. This is one of the most calculated cases I've seen. Don't miss what happens next. Share this video with someone who needs to hear this story." The emergency custody hearing was scheduled for Tuesday morning. Jake's lawyer, Gerald Mathis, was confident. I could see it in the way he strutted into the courthouse, his expensive suit perfectly tailored, his briefcase probably worth more than my car. Jake and Rachel sat together in the waiting area. They didn't even try to hide their relationship anymore. Her hand was on his knee. He whispered something in her ear that made her smile. My mother sat beside me, calm and collected. "Remember what we discussed. Let them speak first. Give them enough rope to hang themselves." Judge Marcus Whitmore entered, and the proceeding began. Mathis went first, painting a picture of me as an unstable, overwhelmed mother who refused help and isolated herself from family. He presented the evidence: my postpartum depression screening, texts to friends about feeling overwhelmed, my decision to take leave from work. "Your Honor, Ms. Patterson has exhibited concerning behavior since the birth of her daughter," Mathis said smoothly. "She's refused assistance from her loving husband and sister. She's become paranoid and defensive. Multiple reports to CPS confirm these concerns." Jake testified next, playing the worried husband perfectly. "I love my wife, Your Honor, but I'm terrified for Emma's safety. Melissa won't let anyone help her. She's constantly anxious, constantly hovering. She's not herself." Rachel's testimony was particularly sickening. "My sister has always been a perfectionist, but since Emma was born, it's gotten extreme. She won't let me hold the baby for more than a few minutes. She checks on her constantly. I'm worried she's going to harm Emma or herself." When they finished, Judge Whitmore looked at my mother. "Ms. Reynolds, your response." Mom stood. "Your Honor, I'd like to submit evidence that tells a rather different story." She presented the nanny cam footage. All of it. The judge's expression changed from neutral to horrified as he watched Jake and Rachel discuss their plan, go through my medical records, plot to frame me as unfit. "Your Honor," Mom continued, "this is not a case of an overwhelmed mother needing help. This is a case of systematic abuse and manipulation designed to steal custody of a child for financial gain. My daughter is the victim of a conspiracy involving her husband, her sister, and unfortunately, some questionable legal maneuvering designed to fast-track this hearing before an unethical judge." Whitmore's face flushed red. "Excuse me? You're Richard Sterling's golf partner. Jake's stepfather's estate is worth $40 million. Emma's custody isn't about her welfare. It's about controlling access to that inheritance." Mom's voice was steel. This hearing was scheduled through irregular channels, without proper notification to the mother, with a judge who should have recused himself due to personal connections. Mathis jumped up. "Your Honor, this is outrageous." "Sit down, Mr. Mathis," Whitmore said quietly. His face had gone from red to pale. Ms. Reynolds, are you accusing this court of impropriety? I'm stating facts, Your Honor. Facts I'll be presenting to the State Judicial Review Board this afternoon. The courtroom was silent. Jake looked like he'd been punched. Rachel had tears streaming down her face, but not the sympathetic kind. The terrified kind. Whitmore stood. This hearing is postponed pending an investigation. Mr. Patterson, you're not to go near your wife or daughter until this is resolved. Bailiff, please escort Mr. Patterson and Ms. Miller out of my courtroom. As they were led away, Jake turned to look at me. The hatred in his eyes was palpable. This was the real Jake. The one he'd been hiding for 5 years. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. The investigation moved quickly once the State Bar got involved. Whitmore was suspended pending ethics review. Mathis lost his license for 6 months. And Jake? Jake faced criminal charges for fraud, conspiracy, and attempted custodial interference. But the real shock came 3 weeks later when another woman contacted my mother. Her name was Sophie Chen. She was 35, lived in Portland, and had been married to Jake Patterson 8 years ago. He did the same thing to me, she said when we met for coffee. She looked exhausted, like she'd been carrying a secret for too long. We had a son together, Tyler. Jake convinced everyone I was unstable, that I was neglecting Tyler. He had his girlfriend at the time testifying against me. His girlfriend. I felt sick. Her name was Rachel Miller. The room spun. Rachel was with Jake 8 years ago. Sophie nodded. They've been doing this for nearly a decade, Melissa. They find successful women, get them pregnant, destroy their credibility, take the kids. I lost custody of Tyler for 6 years. I just got him back last year after Jake finally let his mask slip with the judge. Where is Tyler now? With me, in Portland. Safe. Jake hasn't contacted us in 18 months. Sophie's hands shook around her coffee cup. When I saw your case in the news, I had to reach out. You need to know what they are. They're predators. My mother was already on her phone, calling contacts, pulling records. By that evening, we'd found 2 more women. Jennifer, who'd lost custody of her daughter for 3 years. Maria, who'd fled the state rather than fight Jake in court, leaving her son behind. All of them had the same story. Jake and Rachel, working together, systematically destroying mothers to gain custody and access to money or assets. It's a pattern, Mom explained to the prosecutor assigned to Jake's criminal case. He targets women with family money or earning potential. Gets them pregnant. Then Rachel moves in as the concerned sister or supportive friend and helps build the case that the mother is unfit. The prosecutor, a woman named Diana Reeves, looked disgusted. How have they gotten away with this? Because family court is broken, Mom said bluntly. Because judges believe professional-looking men in expensive suits. Because mothers are held to impossible standards while fathers are praised for basic parenting. And because Jake and Rachel are very, very good at manipulation. Diana Reeves filed charges not just against Jake, but against Rachel as well. Conspiracy, fraud, perjury, and in Sophie's case, kidnapping. The trial was scheduled for 3 months later. If you made it this far, drop a comment about whether you think they'll get what they deserve. The morning of the trial, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting my simple navy dress. Emma was at my mother's house, safe with a nanny we'd vetted extensively. I'd learned not to trust easily anymore. The courtroom was packed. Sophie, Jennifer, and Maria sat in the front row behind the prosecution. Jake's family sat behind him, his mother Susan looking shell-shocked, finally seeing who her son really was. Rachel sat separately, having taken a plea deal to testify against Jake. Even partners in crime eventually betray each other when facing serious prison time. The prosecution went first, methodically building the case. The nanny cam footage. The testimony from Jake's exes. Rachel's damning statements about their long-term plan. Financial records showing how Jake had profited from previous custody arrangements. Mr. Patterson and Ms. Miller engaged in a decade-long pattern of abuse, Diana Reeves told the jury. They targeted vulnerable women, isolated them, and then used the legal system as a weapon to steal their children. This isn't just fraud. This is systematic psychological torture. Jake's defense tried to paint him as a concerned father who'd made mistakes. But the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for less than 6 hours. We find the defendant, Jake Patterson, guilty on all counts. The sentencing hearing 2 weeks later was cathartic. Sophie spoke about the 6 years she'd lost with Tyler. Jennifer talked about her daughter's ongoing trauma from being separated from her mother. Maria described fleeing the state, living in fear for years. When it was my turn, I held Emma in my arms. She was 6 months old now, happy and healthy, completely unaware of the battle that had been fought for her. Your Honor, I said quietly, Jake Patterson tried to convince everyone that I was an unfit mother. But the truth is, I was always fighting for my daughter. Every moment of doubt he planted in my mind, every criticism, every manipulation, I pushed through it because I knew Emma needed me. I looked at Jake, who wouldn't meet my eyes. The real danger to Emma was never me. It was him. It was the man who saw his own daughter as a financial asset instead of a human being. Judge Reynolds, a different judge, properly assigned, looked at Jake with unconcealed disgust. Mr. Patterson, you have exhibited a pattern of behavior that shocks the conscience of this court. You have manipulated legal systems, destroyed families, and traumatized multiple children for financial gain. I sentence you to 20 years in state prison. 20 years. He was 37. He'd be 57 when released. Rachel got 12 years for her cooperation and testimony. The courtroom erupted in applause from the victims' families. Jake's mother approached me after the sentencing. Melissa, Susan said quietly, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I should have seen. You couldn't have known, I said, though part of me wondered if that was true. But now you do. And now Tyler, and all the other children, get their mothers back. She nodded, tears streaming. I've set up a trust fund for Emma. For her education. It's the least I can do. We don't want. Please. Let me do this one good thing. Let me help undo some of the damage my son caused. 6 months after Jake's conviction, life began to feel normal again. I returned to my marketing consulting business, working from home with Emma in a playpen beside my desk. My mother lived in the guest room 3 days a week, helping with childcare and making up for all the grandmother time she'd missed during the investigation. Sophie and I became close friends. Tyler and Emma would grow up knowing each other, bonded by the strange circumstances of their births. Jennifer moved back to the city with her daughter. Maria returned from hiding with her son. We formed a support group, calling ourselves Surviving Custody Fraud. We helped other women recognize the warning signs, connected them with lawyers, shared our stories. You saved my life, Sophie told me at one of our monthly meetings. If you hadn't fought back, hadn't documented everything, Jake would still be doing this to women. My mother saved us, I corrected. I was just trying to survive. That's what heroes do, Jennifer said. They survive, and then they help others do the same. The nanny cam still sits in Emma's nursery, though now it's just for checking on her while she naps. Sometimes I watch the footage of her sleeping peacefully, remembering the night I caught Jake and Rachel on camera. That moment that changed everything. I think about what might have happened if I hadn't installed those cameras. If I'd trusted Jake. If I'd believed his gaslighting about my parenting. I would have lost Emma. She would have grown up thinking her mother abandoned her, never knowing the truth. Instead, Emma is here, safe, loved, surrounded by a community of mothers who fought like hell to keep their children. The last time I saw Jake's picture in the news, he looked diminished. Small. A cautionary tale about what happens when you build a life on manipulating others. Meanwhile, I get to watch Emma take her first steps, say her first words, discover the world. I get to be her mother, unquestioned and unafraid. That's the real ending. Not his punishment, but my peace. Not Rachel's prison sentence, but the friendships I built with women who understood exactly what I'd survived. And maybe that's the moral of this story. Technology gave me evidence, but other women's courage gave me strength. The legal system provided justice, but my mother's 40 years of experience provided strategy. And Emma provided purpose. If this story resonated with you, if you've survived a manipulative partner or fought for custody of your children, share this video. Let's build a community that refuses to stay silent about these predators who use family court as a weapon. Subscribe for more stories of resilience, justice, and the long road to healing. Drop a comment with your story or just to say you made it through. Remember, trust your instincts. Document everything. And never, ever let someone convince you that fighting for your child makes you the problem. Until next time, protect your peace, trust your truth, and install those nanny cams.